Hey everyone, it's Ivan, KipBadger.com, out here for another course review, and today talking about the 3-day low-light Recce Carbine class with follow-through consulting. What was it? It's a 3-day carbine class, largely shot at intermediate distances, both day and night. The end. Just kidding. Amazing class. But backing up a step, I actually had the good fortune of going down there with a couple of my buddies, Nick, as well as Mitch, engineers from Q, as well as some other guys from Q, and pretty much the entire crew from Classic Firearms. But it was also an open enrollment class, so there were a bunch of students, I think total like 18 or something like that, but amazing course. And it takes place it's called the Q Ranch down in, I guess, northeastern New Mexico. Nothing to do with Q, the firearms company. Amazing property out there though. I want to say they do guided hunts through a lot of the year and also host classes, but beautiful like scenery, topography, which also made for some really fun and challenging shooting. But yeah, overall rad class. Starting off initially, essentially with kind of a walkthrough of like, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. This is my background, introduction from Buck Doyle, who teaches it, follow through consulting, and kind of went from there. Started off, as most classes do, initially essentially confirming 0. And so I actually came there with shooting, of all things, the Boombox in 8.6 Blackout, amazing gun. And so I initially ended up getting a 0-1 with subs, which I was going to be shooting, as it turns out, the first 2 of 3 days. And then I also printed on paper with some supers. But yeah, basically kind of getting walked on, and everyone at their respective, whatever their 0 distances was, moving back and getting a good solid 0 so that we could continue with the rest of the training. Something I really appreciated was very little time, spent shooting paper, and almost even less time shooting on a flat range. So initially working through some kind of crawl, walk, run drills there on the flat range, shooting on steel. Initially, basically just working more or less up drills, hitting steel down there at, I don't know, probably around like 60 yards, something like that. And I think we shot at probably a couple different distances. And then from there, basically incorporating movement, both lateral as well as forward, and getting reps going through all of that. Picking up pretty much exactly where we left off after we'd broke for dinner, ended up going back out there and going through it with night vision, and largely just working on shooting passive. So as long as you can actually see and identify your target, making those shots without adding any type of illumination, without projecting anything. And since I had a laser on my gun, obviously got a couple reps running through with that laser too. But yeah, just building on what we'd worked on kind of throughout that first day. As I had mentioned earlier, not a lot of square range, which is awesome. On day 2, we ended up actually going up onto this plateau, and there were a number of courses of fire. And kind of distance-wise, anywhere from, honestly, about 10 feet out to probably a good 100 yards or so. And just natural terrain. Basically working through, because of the weather we had, a bunch of snow and things like that. And transitioning from maybe shooting over off to one side, shooting over on the other side, lateral movement, whatever it may be, and getting to basically kind of rep out in natural surroundings, all of the things we had kind of stair-stepped through on that first day. I will say getting up there was pretty wild, and then getting out of that spot even worse. I think it had snowed probably a couple days before we got there. The weather while we were there was beautiful. So during the day, it'd be sunny, no wind, like 65 degrees, like t-shirt weather. And as a result though, the snow turned like terrible slush to mud, and we had a couple vehicles get stuck, had to get like drug out with basically a bulldozer. But eventually we got down from there. Unfortunately, because of that, we weren't going to be able to go back up and shoot kind of through those same courses of fire that evening, which, as luck would have it, meant we actually got to go to another spot, which was really amazing. Again, just all kinds of natural terrain and going through and basically working through the problem, trying to find your targets from respective points of domination, shooting until you hit your target, and then moving on. And really cool getting to rep that out. Again, just like Recce style, i.e. moving from different points and searching out, finding, and engaging targets. It's pretty neat training with different people and in turn essentially seeing their experiences inform what they end up teaching and how they teach it. And from Buck's experience, one, largely working just passive if you could, and just intermediate distances with whatever terrain you happen to find. So rather than doing up drills at 10 yards, it's like, cool, get over to that point, look out over that way, find your target, engage it, whether it was during the night or during the day. And really cool and really fun. Again, just largely shooting on steel, aside from some closer paper targets that would actually get scored. Then on the last and final day, of course, turned into actually a competition, like on the clock. Again, really fun. We ended up shooting actually a couple stages. We had maybe one or two stages, I guess. We had shot maybe the prior night and progressed through all of those, both shooting them during the day and then going back and shooting some at night. On the night ones, it was somewhat abbreviated in that because of logistics and weather, terrain, roads, things like that, weren't able to get out and necessarily shoot every single one we shot during the day, but again, getting those good reps and just working through problems, moving from point to point, finding, engaging, moving on, really amazing. When the dust settled, I think I came in third place out of the 18 or whatever, which I was happy with. It was fun. There were definitely some good shooters there. I appreciate when courses integrate some sort of like stress competition type thing because it's cool. It's really easy to work skills in isolation and be comfortable at whatever that pace is, but then having to push yourself and essentially balance that speed and accuracy portion with the added pressure of knowing it's for time and your peers watching you. It's good added stress. So definitely a lot of fun. And overall, the course, it was pretty rad. I don't think I've ever been to a course set up similar to that, in that there was very little time spent essentially on the flat range and then getting to largely just shoot natural terrain, which one, there's not a lot of places that offer that because they do not have a facility, but two is just really cool. Having to actually hunt out and find targets, short bursts of movement, the whole nine. Really cool just across the board. And it's interesting too, seeing, having never taken a class with Buck Doyle, but then seeing that class and seeing how essentially everyone that teaches out there somewhere, basically their curriculum is informed by their experiences and getting just little bits of knowledge along the way of like, hey, we do this way because, and yeah, going through. Having said that, there wasn't anything I think that was necessarily like hard, fast, in stone, but the backstory on maybe a certain technique or why we're doing a drill the way we're doing it. But yeah, pretty rad. Coming away from it, who do I think this course would be good for? Honestly, someone looking for maybe the next step in a more realistic application of a carbine. Not that there's value at up drills at like 10 yards, but being able to actually shoot natural terrain, which honestly a lot of people just don't have the opportunity to because of facility, and that low light portion. And a quick note on that too. There was a wild disparity in gear there, shooting obviously under night vision lasers, illuminator, all that stuff, even though most of it was definitely geared towards shooting passive, i.e. not projecting any energy with night vision. whatever you brought. So there were some people that honestly had white lights on their guns, and when they went through at night, they would engage with white light, make it work. There were also people there with like quad tubes, so the entire spectrum of gear. If it's something you're interested in though, pretty low bar for entry as far as you need a rifle with an optic and a white light at the least. And barring that, if you actually have nods, whether it's PVS 14 or something else, honestly, a Vampire Scout light will do everything you need to do in conjunction with whatever optic you can shoot a passive through. Awesome course though. If it's something you're interested in, there'll be links down below and you can check it out, as well as a link over to all my gear from that loadout. But yeah, rad time out there with honestly a lot of good people too. Always fun spending time with friends, whether it's my buddies from Q or whole classic firearms crew. But as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.